Before evil entered the world, before temptation reached humanity, before darkness spread across creation, there was an angel. Not just any angel, the most radiant angel heaven had ever seen. His name was Lucifer. He was powerful, beautiful, glorious. But something began to grow inside his heart, something so dangerous that it would ignite a rebellion in heaven itself and transform the brightest angel in all of creation into Satan. This is not a myth. This is not a legend. This is the story Scripture tells of how pride destroyed the most glorious being God ever made. In the beginning, everything God created was good. The heavens were filled with angelic beings, each one created to serve, to worship, to glorify the Creator. But among the countless angels in heaven, one stood apart. Scripture describes him as full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. He was surrounded by precious stones: sardius, topaz, diamond, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, emerald, and carbuncle. Light seemed to radiate from him wherever he went. He was called the Anointed Cherub, a guardian, a covering angel. His name, Lucifer, which means the son of the morning, the light bearer. Lucifer was not created as an enemy of God. He was not created to destroy. He was not created to deceive. He was created to serve God, to worship Him, to glorify Him. Many scholars believe Lucifer held a position of enormous authority among the angels. Some believe he led heaven's worship, that his very being was crafted for music, for praise, for adoration of the Most High. He stood close to the throne of God, closer than almost any other created being. He saw God's power, raw and unlimited. He witnessed God's holiness, pure and unapproachable. He beheld God's glory, radiant beyond all description. And yet, the closer Lucifer stood to greatness, the more dangerous his thoughts became. Because instead of reflecting God's glory outward, Lucifer began turning his gaze inward. He stopped looking at God and started looking at himself. At first, it was subtle, a quiet thought, a small feeling, a whisper in the heart that no one else could hear. Lucifer began to notice his beauty, his influence, his power among the angels. He began to compare himself to others, and in every comparison, he came out on top. The more he looked at himself, the more he desired. Not just admiration, not just honor, not just a place of importance. He wanted authority. He wanted supremacy. He wanted what belonged to God alone. Pride had taken root, and pride, once it takes root, does not stay small. It grows, it spreads, it consumes. Eventually, his quiet thoughts turned into loud ambitions. His feelings turned into declarations. The prophet Isaiah records the words of Lucifer's heart, 5 statements that reveal the full depth of his rebellion. I will ascend to heaven. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit on the mount of assembly, on the highest mountain. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. 5 times he said, I will. 5 times he placed his desires above God's authority. Lucifer no longer wanted to worship God. He wanted to replace him, and that desire, that moment of ultimate pride, would shatter the peace of heaven forever. Here is what makes Lucifer's rebellion even more chilling. He did not fall alone. Pride is never satisfied with itself. It looks for company. It looks for followers. It looks for those it can pull down with it. Lucifer began spreading his influence among the angels. He moved through heaven with whispers, quiet conversations, seeds of doubt, questions disguised as wisdom. He may have said things like, why do we serve? Why do we bow? Look at what we are. Look at what we could be. He convinced others that heaven needed a different ruler, that God's authority was something to challenge, not submit to. And gradually, angels began to listen. Scripture suggests that 1/3 of all of heaven's angels joined Lucifer's rebellion. Imagine that, 1/3. Not a small group, not a fringe movement, a massive portion of heaven's angelic host, deceived. For the very first time in all of creation, heaven itself faced division. Angels had to choose. Remain loyal to the God who created them, or follow the angel who promised them something more. And that choice led to something no created being had ever witnessed: war. The rebellion exploded into open conflict. The book of Revelation pulls back the curtain on this moment. It describes a war, an actual war, breaking out in heaven. Lucifer and his followers fought against God's angels. Leading the armies of heaven was the archangel Michael, a mighty warrior, a faithful servant of God. One of the most powerful beings in creation. The battle was fierce. It was real. It was cosmic. But here is what you need to understand. This war was never in doubt. Lucifer was created. God is eternal. Lucifer was powerful. God is all-powerful. Lucifer had followers. God has no equal. A creature, no matter how glorious, cannot overthrow its creator. Pride can make you believe you are capable of anything, but pride cannot rewrite reality. Lucifer's rebellion was defeated. And heaven, the place of God's throne, the dwelling of perfect holiness, could no longer contain what Lucifer had become. And then came the moment that changed everything. Lucifer and his fallen angels were cast out of heaven. Not gently, not quietly, not with a warning and a second chance. Jesus himself described this moment. He said, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven." Like lightning, fast, violent, final. The angel of light fell. The one who had stood at the very throne of God was cast down to the earth. The one created to carry light became the prince of darkness. Lucifer, the son of the morning, became Satan, the adversary, the accuser, the enemy of God and humanity, and with him came his angels. Fallen, corrupt, dedicated to one purpose: to oppose the God they once served. Everything that Lucifer had once been was now twisted into something else entirely. His beauty became deception. His wisdom became manipulation. His influence became corruption. His light became darkness. The fall was total. The fall was permanent. And the consequences would reach all the way to the Garden of Eden and beyond. Now you might be thinking, this is an ancient story. This happened before time as we know it. What does it have to do with me? Everything. Because the same lie that destroyed Lucifer is still being whispered today. You don't need God. You can be your own authority. You deserve more than what you've been given. Bow to no one. That is the voice of pride. And pride has never once led anyone to a good place. Lucifer was the most glorious being God ever created. He had everything. He stood in the presence of God, and pride still destroyed him. If pride could destroy Lucifer, what can it do to us? But here is what makes the story of Lucifer's fall so powerful. It is not just a warning about destruction, it is a contrast. Because while Lucifer chose pride and rebellion, we are offered something different. We are offered grace. We are offered the choice to humble ourselves, to turn back to God, to be restored. Lucifer's story is more than ancient history. It is a mirror. Pride destroyed the most beautiful angel heaven ever knew, and pride still destroys lives today. But where Lucifer chose rebellion, we are given a choice: to humble ourselves and follow God. The brightest angel fell because he forgot his place. Don't make the same mistake. Before you move on, I want you to sit with one thought. Lucifer was not weak. He was not ignorant. He was not without access to God. He stood closer to the throne of God than almost any being in existence. He saw glory with his own eyes. He experienced heaven firsthand, and he still chose pride over purpose. That is the most sobering part of this story. It was not a lack of knowledge that destroyed him. It was a choice. A deliberate, conscious, repeated choice to place himself above the one who made him. And the question this story leaves us with is not about Lucifer. It is about us. Because we face the same whisper every single day. You are enough on your own. You don't need to bow to anyone. You deserve to be at the center. Lucifer heard that whisper, and he believed it. The invitation of this story is to choose differently, to humble ourselves before pride does its work.